So probably the craziest thing that I found in tearing this down so far is the stock bolt in here. So it's obviously an SMLE stock that they tried to force on here, and it didn't work. I mean, this stock and this receiver are just not going to go together at all. But the stock bolt in here is because the stock can't actually reach down into the receiver. I mean, you see all this that's here. The bolt isn't all the way down either. So you can't even reach it with like a normal size screwdriver. So I have this 8-inch screwdriver that I normally use when I have to like undo a stock bolt on an SMLE or an Enfield or really anything else. Generally this works, but this thing will go all the way in, all 8 inches, and I'm not even touching the bolt. So I had to go out and buy this ridiculously long 12-inch screwdriver in hopes that I can use this to get the stock bolt out of here. If this doesn't work, if I can't get that, I may have to cut this stock, which I really don't want to do. You know, it's in pretty good shape. I'd like to save it for a future project to try and get this bolt out. So I'm going to try it with this 12-inch screwdriver. We'll see if this works. The bolt may or may not be salvageable. They're only a couple bucks, so I actually bought a new old stock one anyway that's coming with the replacement No. 4 stock. So we'll see what we could salvage out of this. And that did work. That was only hanging on by maybe 3/4 of a turn on the thread. There was just nothing holding that on there. I think one shot probably would have snapped it. So good thing we got that off. It was really easy. That 12-inch screwdriver really came in handy. And now I'll probably never ever use it again. So that's awesome. So yeah, it was only being held in there by about maybe 3/4 of a turn of the stock bolt. So that came out really, really easily. Had I shot it with that stock on there, it probably would have snapped right off. So good thing we got that off, and I'm thankful that it was a pretty easy process. Of course, now I'm probably never ever going to get to use that ridiculously long 12-inch screwdriver again. Making some progress on the bore. Not sure how well you can see it through my cell phone camera here. Try and get it through a little bit better angle. But we do have a pretty good 2-groove rifle barrel coming through here. I mean, the lands and grooves are very well defined. Rifling is sharp. It's pretty clear. The crown itself is a little worn, but I don't think it's so worn that this rifle isn't going to shoot too well with some different loads. So we'll see what happens. I'm going to keep cleaning, but boy, has it been a process. I've been doing intervals with Ballistol and some of this gun scrubber stuff here, and this is just from what I've done in this last one. The patches are still coming out filthy. I don't know where it's hiding all this dirt and grime still in there, but there's still quite a bit in there. We'll keep scrubbing, but at some point I think it's probably just going to kind of shoot out a little bit. I mean, it might not. The best thing I could probably do to clean it is actually get the barrel hot from shooting it a little bit and try this again after a range session. But we are getting there. I'm confident this is going to be a decent shooter. The crown, like I said, is a little bit worn, concerning maybe a little bit, but I've shot rifles with worse crowns and they turned out fine. So I know that's kind of hit or miss. We'll see how it does with this pretty soon. We got a couple parts still on order. Won't know anything, of course, till they come in. So the new buttstock came, and be honest, I was kind of disappointed because it's in almost brand new looking condition. I mean, it looks like it's got some storage wear on it, but basically this thing is it's in really, really good shape. And I don't think that there's any way that I'm going to be able to get the wood on this, the rifle, as much work as I put into it, it's never going to look that good, so it's just not going to match very well. So I think what I'm going to end up doing is just taking the buttstock that came with it, which even itself is in a lot better shape than the rest of the wood, and just fit this to the rifle, just do some woodworking to it. And I looked up, and that was a historical practice that was done, especially in areas of the Far East where armorers didn't have as much supply of No. 4 parts, and they had a lot of SMLE parts in that part of the world. They did, when necessary, fit SMLE butts to No. 4 rifles. So I think that's what I'm going to do here, because there's just no way that I'm going to get the rest of the stock to look this nice, and it would just look silly. So I don't know what I'm going to do with this buttstock, but I don't think I'm going to use it on this rifle. All right, so we've come to our finished product here after all the cleaning and putting back together. I am pretty happy with how this turned out. So the wood took, I mean, coats after coats of boiled linseed oil. It was just so filthy that there was really no original finish left. So I used a little bit harsher chemical than I wanted to try and really strip it down and get as much grime out of there as I could before starting again. And I'm really happy with how it came out. I believe I have probably 6 coats of BLO on there. Buttstock did not take as much work. This is probably only 3 coats for that. Like I said, it was in much better condition than the rest of the wood. I think somebody either in Ethiopia or at RTI must have just slapped this buttstock right on there before sending it out for import just to have a complete gun, because it doesn't have near the wear or even the grime that the rest of the rifle did. But either way, I think it matches pretty well. Pretty happy that I stuck with the original one that came with it rather than use the No. 4 buttstock I got as a replacement. So I thought about doing sort of a boil and card for the parts, but I decided instead to just use some spray paint and sort of make a mock Suncarite finish that looked a little bit worn. I'm pretty happy with how it came out. Obviously, it would be pretty easy to strip this back down to the bare metal and try the boil and card thing if I ever want to do that in the future, but I kind of like how it looks. I'm happy with what I was able to do with it, with sort of this, you know, spray paint to make it look worn and not, you know, nothing you do is going to make this gun look brand new. There's just too much pitting and too much wear that going with a sort of worn look, but not as bad as it was, is, in my opinion, sort of the way to go with it. So either way, it looks good. It functions well. The trigger on this is really, really nice. There's no grit to the action. You know, I've cleaned it up as best that I possibly could. It's ready to go to the range. I'm confident. The bore is really strong. I think this is going to be a shooter, guys. So let's head to the range and see how it works. All right, well, here we are at the range with it. Everything's cleaned up, good to go. Let's see how it does. Go see how it works. Well, folks, at 50 yards, I really can't complain much about that. So I've been playing around with a couple different loads for it. Like most of my Enfields, this really seems to like the flat base bullets the best, particularly the Hornady round nose ones. I think they're 170 or 180 grain Hornady round nose flat base, 312 diameter, and yeah, that's a pretty good group. My thumb for comparison, especially with the pretty imprecise. I mean, for a peep sight, they're relatively imprecise No. 4 sights, but yeah, 41 grains of H4064, capped with one of those Hornady round nose bullets. That's pretty good, guys. For a goat shed $150 salvage special, I'm happy. So it shoots. It's doing really well. It functions perfectly. Trigger on this one is awesome. So yeah, I'm not going to complain. This was a good deal. Gamble I won. Hope you guys who rolled the dice did just as well as I did. Thanks.